So good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for coming to Building AI Literacy in Secondary Students. And I'm just really happy that you guys are tuning in here in July to talk about AI literacy for students and especially secondary students. So thank you so much for this. So we're just going to dive right in and talk about this. The resources in this session are really focused on those middle school and especially high school students, and are informed by working with classroom students in some high school classes that I've been able to work with, and then the North Carolina AI summits that we had this spring, where we had 9 students in the East and 5 students in the West who were able to be interviewed and talk to us in our student panels. So we wanted to, take their information and really elevate what they were able to share with us and inform what we're doing as we go forward, especially this school year. So let's get started with that. So the agenda for today is to start off with a little bit about why it feels so urgent to really start doing some AI literacy work with secondary students this school year, and some key considerations to keep in mind, and talk about equity of access, and then to look at some ready-made resources that we can use so you don't feel like you have to start from scratch. There's some really good things available that we can dig into and customize and use for our students. So you've got the link to the slide deck, and there's a Summer of AI Padlet that has a lot of resources packed in there. We've just kind of been curating that for the past few webinars, so feel free to explore along and kind of multitask there too. And if you have any questions, or if anything kind of has a glitch or whatever, feel free to type in the chat so we can pause and take care of that. Okay. So the first thing that I wanted to point out or just elevate here is a student that we had a chance to talk to at the AI Summit in the West. And this is Savannah's story. She is actually going to East Tennessee State University now, but at the time that she was talking to us, she was a senior in high school, and she shared a little bit of her story with us about her experience with AI in school, where her teachers basically told her not to use chat, so chat GPT, but she called it chat. And she said she actually thought that it was called chat GDP. And so that's what she called it all year. And she really had no idea what it was. And one of the things that she said, as we were talking, or she was talking on the student panel, was that when she was applying to school, and as she kind of came to learn more about it as the year wore on, was that she started to realize that kids that she was competing with to get into college were probably using AI to write their essays and to get into school. And so she was feeling that maybe she was at a disadvantage because she didn't have these skills and she didn't know about it. So, we need to keep those things in mind as we're going forward, especially this year, because we know that it's out there and we know what's going on. And as we are getting more and more informed about this as educators, we know our students are also experimenting and exploring. And I read something recently by someone who I follow on social media who said, if we wouldn't let our students learn about biology on TikTok, then why would we let them learn about AI on TikTok? And then another story that was shared during our student panels was from Bo, and he was at the time a sophomore, in Eastern North Carolina, and he also owns his own metal fabrication and welding business. So, an amazing young man. And he talked to us about how he is concerned about the ethics of AI, and especially, now and in the future, and related it to the way social media has changed in his lifetime. And I know for sure in my lifetime, I've seen it evolve from, prodigy post boards to everything that we see in social media. And so he's absolutely right that as AI tools change, it can go from being something that we see the way it is now. And he was concerned about everyone needing to be informed and aware of how these tools are used. And so we've got students, just this small sampling of students who are very aware of these tools in their lives. And if our students are having these conversations, then we as educators need to be teaching them and guiding them because our students are definitely aware of these things in their lives. And that brings us to just the things that we know are going on in the workforce. And we've seen a lot of these things online. This survey is from 2023 from Resume Builder, where the AI and job market is in AI skills in the job market are highly in demand. We've seen a huge increase in the demand for AI in the future job market. So we know that our students know, we know that employers know. So we've got to start infusing this AI literacy in our classrooms and especially in secondary school. And we've seen this need basically right now. So, in our AI guidance document, one of the quotes that we see under the section that talks about AI literacy and what AI literacy is this quote from Teach AI that says AI literacy refers to the knowledge and skills and attitudes associated with how artificial intelligence works, including its principles and concepts and applications, as well as how to use artificial intelligence and its limitations, implications, and ethical considerations. And when you take that definition, if you were to just give that to students, they'll be like, well, I see your words. But what am I going to do with that? How do I unpack what that actually means in my life? So, if you look at some key considerations, it's going to be academic performance,
Mm,
and that would include everything from how does technology distract you? We have a lot of research about how phones are sitting on on our desks, and even if you turn your phone upside down, there's a lot of research that shows that that little nagging situation sitting right there on your desk is a constant bother. And so there are schools that are actually going to no phone schools. We've got the whole entire consideration of is AI considered cheating and how do we rethink our approach to teaching and assessments and assignments in the age of AI. We've got concerns about mental health and anxiety and depression and sleep and technology in general that we have to think about. We've got the whole consideration of your physical health and your social interaction. Is there too much screen time? And how do we kind of keep all of these things in balance? We've got privacy and security considerations with technology in general, and then definitely with AI and privacy and security, and then all of the concerns about digital footprint and the digital divides. And with the digital divides, I put that in parentheses because we used to have a concern with just access to technology, to giving kids devices, giving teachers and students access to Wi Fi in school, and one-to-one technology. But in the age of AI, access now has become access to AI technology, AI at school. And so if you go to school, and we've got some schools that are giving students access and some schools that are not giving students access, or even within one school, we have some teachers who are teaching with AI and some teachers who are saying AI is cheating, then we have a new version of a digital divide. So we have a lot of other considerations to take into account in this new age of AI. So, with all of that being said, how do we look at all of these things that we need to be taking into account this school year for our students who are beginning to balance work and school in secondary school and high school, and who are also beginning to graduate this school year or look at applying to college and university. So, a lot of things to think about that are increasingly urgent for our secondary students. I don't know if this is showing up on your screen, but this is a screenshot of of page 18 of our NC guidance. So I wanted to kind of hone you in on where AI literacy is addressed for students in the North Carolina guidance document, and it should be linked in your slide deck, so you could go directly there. So I'm going to click on it just to take us over there. Okay, and so that takes you over to the North Carolina guidance document, and I'm just going to scroll down to page 18. I'll try not to scroll too fast to make everybody dizzy. There we go. Okay, so I said 18, but I really meant 17. So in the North Carolina guidance, we have a section for AI literacy recommendations broken up by grade span. So at the top of 17, we have elementary and some recommendations and resources, middle grades for learning about AI, and then high school learning about AI. So, and one of the important things to keep in mind is that learning about AI doesn't necessarily require that students have unfettered access to AI. If you're going to teach high school, middle school, and especially elementary school students about AI, it doesn't mean that you need to sign everybody up for an AI account and just set them loose on ChatGPT. That is definitely not what you need to think of AI literacy is all about. So learning about AI with no AI required is definitely where to begin. So there are ways to begin teaching students AI literacy without getting them into an AI program right away. So we're going to begin exploring some of these resources and approaches to talking about AI programs and AI responsible use without getting students directly into AI programs immediately. This resource over here is a Wakelet that contains all of the resources that are in the North Carolina guidance, and then some other resources that are little bite-sized chunks of information from various sources that are being added to, that can be used in small ways in classrooms to give kids practice. So I'm going to click you over there so you can see that. So if we explore down here, we have AI for all, we have the AI for education, which is mentioned in the North Carolina guidance. And everything is organized in this Wakelet. So it includes everything that's in the AI guidance document, but then a lot of other resources that have been um, mentioned as specifically relating to AI literacy. So I wanted to make sure I gave you just sort of a repository of information that you could explore. Okay. So I'm going to pause right there for just a second and see if anybody has any questions in the chat before I move on to the first example. Okay, sounds like we're good. Okay, so the first example of an approach to beginning AI literacy with secondary students is from Common Sense Education. And this is an example where I took a lesson from Common Sense Education and then customized it for a high school class. And I want to tell you a little story about it first before I jump into how the lesson actually went. So the backstory on this is that I got an email that that asked me whether or not I could come teach a class on AI literacy. And the problem was that the students had been doing some work. It was a highly engaging project that was based in a real world problem. It was, yeah, project based learning. But when it all got said and done, there were several students who had clearly done their reflections by putting their work into an AI and just pasting it into their Google Doc and turning it in. And the teacher was frustrated by this. And so the email that I got was, can you come teach my class about AI? So discovering some more background information, it was so that they will stop cheating. And as we know, if you've been to any of the other webinars and listened to Vera or me or any of the other digital learning consultants or basically social media in general, that there are no AI detectors that will accurately catch AI plagiarism, and stopping quote unquote cheating with AI is, a very difficult task. So my answer to this teacher was, I can definitely come and do some AI literacy, but stopping cheating with AI is, you are the best safeguard against that. As a teacher, you're going to know your student's voice in in that paper much more accurately than any AI plagiarism detector. And as we were talking about it, she's actually said, well, that she knew that her students had used AI to write their reflections, but she wanted a plagiarism detector to, kind of back her up. So we talked about that a little bit. So I went to Common Sense Media and did some investigating, and then we worked together to come up with a lesson that would kind of get the conversation started. It was the end of the year, and we didn't have a lot of time to do a complete series. So this was a little bit of a start to get these kids to start thinking about AI and AI literacy. So I want to kind of go through how this lesson went with these kids and kind of, some of the takeaways that I got from talking with these students about AI, and some of my takeaways and from talking with them. So the first thing that I did with these students, and I had a couple of classes of them, was come in and do a quick little opener with them. And again, I am not familiar with the students, so as an outside person, I had to do a little bit of a getting to know you activity with them. If you were doing it with students who you had been working with and they were your class, you might change this up a little bit. But the first thing I wanted to do is get to know them and have them get to know me a little bit. So we had a little prior activity. But then I asked them to think about what their thoughts were on AI in school and whether or not they felt like it was a positive influence or a negative influence on their learning, and just kind of brainstorm their thoughts. And my hashtag that I have developed for this lately is think your thoughts first, right? We've got a lot of concerns about whether or not AI is just going to do all of our thinking for us, and nobody will ever think for themselves again. So hashtag think your thoughts first, right? So write it down, brainstorm it somewhere before you just start flinging it into AI. So we had note cards and they did some of this. So they wrote a description, they talked with each other kind of fast because, we didn't have all day. And then we jumped over here to Padlet. And in this school district, students were allowed to use Padlet. But I set it up to be a moderated Padlet because, high school. And so if you want to click on that link and jump over here to see what they did, I taught them how to use Padlet to do a quick little prompt. And so using the I can't draw feature in Padlet. So jumping over to, on my screen, it's a 12, but some of them were using their phones, so it was 3 dots or whatever. And so they opened this up, they used I can't draw, and I explained this screen to them a little bit. Now, some of them were super hasty and they just did some, things that needed to be moderated. So I didn't release them to the Padlet right away. I deleted them, but some of them were really thoughtful. And so if you scroll through there, you can see they created some pretty cool pictures. But one of the things that I did was I always explained this picture and this prompt and how every single word in this prompt is really intentional. Padlet chose to use the word expressive. They used the style of oil painting of a basketball player, so that's the subject. Dunking is what the basketball player is doing, depicted as an explosion, so explosion is the amount of energy that they wanted to display, and of a nebula, so the nebula is describing how they want the background to appear. So what I told the students was that every single word in that prompt is intentional, and so in just a very short amount of words, they've really packed a lot of information into that prompt. So with this very first activity where they thought of what they wanted to say first, and then they go over to this AI image generator, they have learned a little bit about prompting and some prompting language, and then they tried to recreate what they had in their minds and to express something using an AI image generator. So they did that, and you can see some of the results here, and most of the results are pretty amazing. And then I let the penguins come in. Penguins probably have nothing to do with their feelings on AI and education, but they were cute penguins. So before I move on to the next thing, I just wonder if you guys have any thoughts about that, or kind of how you feel about that as an opening activity with a class to start the conversation about AI and AI literacy. I know it takes some time to type questions too, so I'm going to give a little bit of time, because if I were typing a thought, I would be like, let me get my fingers going. So if you do have some comments, go ahead and put them in the chat, because I would love to know what you're thinking. Okay, I'm going to go on to the next thing, but feel free to comment because I would love to know. Okay, so going back to the slides for Common Sense Media and how they kind of, expected this to go, their essential question is for this lesson would be, what is artificial attention or artificial intelligence? What are its potential benefits and drawbacks? So that's going to be, kind of the overarching thing that Common Sense wanted to get across in this. And then they had 3 learning objectives: to define it, to understand what makes Gen AI unique, and then to reflect, to get students to reflect on what are the benefits and the drawbacks. So rather than just sort of saying that and moving on, I thought it would be a good idea to have kids actually, do a poll. Have they ever heard about art AI? Where have they heard about it? Because it's pretty early on. And like we heard from Savannah, she hadn't even heard about it and had been calling it the wrong thing all year long. So I created an AI Padlet for them so that they could go in and actually take a quick little poll. So I added that in there to, give kids a way to actually do it in a in an ed tech kind of way, but you could just take a quick little poll with a show of hands, or do something really quick. So I added that in there. And then Common Sense has this cute quick little video. Now when I first watched this video, I kind of thought, I wonder how this is going to go over with actual seniors, because these kids were seniors. But they watched it, and the feedback during the class was actually pretty good. Like, they didn't dismiss it as being too young, because I was a little worried that it felt a little bit middle schoolish to me. So if it felt like it went over pretty well. So I'm not going to play it for you here now because I feel like we might run out of time, but that's just, look at it for your age level, but it went in real life, it went pretty well. Then I did a quick little explanation to follow that up on the different categories of AI with this graphic, and talked about reactive, predictive, and then why Gen AI is different and feels so new. And then also followed up with this graphic just to kind of drive the point home, because sometimes people look at things differently. And I just really love this graphic from AI for Education, where it shows Gen AI down here as this little subset within the whole entire field of artificial intelligence. And we talked about how these little graphics over here on the side are actually meaningful about the neural network, and how that's how it does what it does. So we had a little conversation about that, and I let the kids kind of talk with each other, because in this particular class they were sitting in groups. So we did a little bit of that and some social learning, and they asked each other questions a little bit. And then we went on to this and kind of defined what GPT actually means, to drive home that these letters actually have some meaning. So that went on. And then I had them play this game. So this is code from code.org, and it's this oceans game. And type in the chat if anybody has actually played this with their students. You can play this video. I didn't play the video. I just had them click continue. And some of them did it on their phones and some of them did it on their devices. It was interesting that they all carried their devices into the room, but almost none of them actually pulled them out. They all used their phones. Almost all of them used their phones. So they played this little game to identify the fish versus the trash in the ocean, and not for very long, but just a little bit to kind of give them a little bit of background on machine learning. And then we went on back to kind of the Common Sense Media part of the lesson, to do some key vocabulary. So you can see how that kind of goes. And then I had them go into a magic school room that I had created for the teacher's class. And we were working together at this point because I wanted, the teacher wanted to also get familiar with magic school. So we had did a little bit of that. And the only tool that I had in magic school at that time was Raina. So I wanted them to be able to interact with Raina's AI, which was the AI. So we jumped over there. I gave them a quick tutorial about how AIs work and what the limitations of them are. And I had them interact with Raina to, that was supposed to open. Oh, I'm click on that to do a quick little ask AI about where AI, machine learning, and natural language processing is in the real world. So rather than me telling them about it, I thought that they could learn about it for themselves. And this prompt is actually inspired by AI for education. I changed it up a little bit to kind of customize it for teenagers. So, and I told them that they could customize it more for themselves if they wanted to. So I had put in there that it was that they are a teenager, a member of the school and the community. But if they wanted to describe themselves a little bit more thoroughly and say that they were maybe a member of the band or they were, on a team or a sport or something like that, that they could customize it for themselves, but then also cautioning them to keep it generic and not personally identifiable. So we had a little bit of a conversation about that. So, and then to at their tables kind of compare how Raina gave them their answers and if they were all the same. And we talked a little bit about the idea of temperature and how AIs are different than search engines. And we had a little bit of a conversation about that. So we tried to pack a lot into this one class. Okay, so I'm going to pause right there for just a second because I've kind of jumped through a lot of information there and just make sure there aren't any questions in the chat or comments. So far for these kids, they have gone through what are their feelings on AI and learned a little bit about prompting, right? They have listened to a video and gotten the download on how AIs work. And then they've jumped into a magic school room and they've interacted with an AI, at least officially for the first time, right, in schools with an educational AI. And they've learned what all of the different places and types and ways that AIs are, right there on their smartphones. So the next thing I wanted them to do, because remember we started off with what are your thoughts on AI in school and are they harmful or are they beneficial? So the ultimate goal now is going to be to have them decide, is generative AI harmful to society? And given what they know, to kind of decide to take a stand. Now, this is the common sense education point of this lesson is to get them to, now you have some information. What are you going to decide? Is it helpful or harmful? And rather than just kind of thinking about it, I decided to split the group up and have them actually take a stand and form groups on either side of the room and write down their reasons why. So they created posters, and then once they created their posters, I had them switch sides and do an activity I call Yeah But. So they had markers and they went to each other's posters, and to each thing that the other side said, they said, yeah, but, and they kind of wrote a counterpoint to the other side. And I asked them to kind of think in their minds to the other side to say, well, yeah, but it's cheating. Yeah, but it's harmful. Yeah, but. And then they did a gallery walk and had a discussion about what their reasons were. And I'm going to tell you, the discussion afterwards was the coolest thing they had, and it was super respectful, and they were just amazing. And these kids had been together, of course, in this class all semester about how they stood. I had one student who stood on the other side of the room and the conversation was about how kids were putting their work into ChatGPT and then pasting it into a document and trying to turn it in, and he said, you've been doing that and you've been trying to turn it in. And then the other side of the class said, but that you were doing that when you were a freshman, but you were just pasting it from Wikipedia. And so it was this really neat conversation about how they used to cheat this way, but now they were just using AI to do it. And this conversation went back and forth about all the different topics that were on each other's posters. So it turned out to be just a really, really interesting lesson. So they ended up, bringing up a lot of the topics that we could have put into a Google slide deck and told them about, but they had the conversations themselves. So super cool lesson. Could have gone back and had, done a whole entire series with them, would have had a blast. I ended it up with a couple of other things there, but I want to definitely fit in my other two examples. But what I asked the teacher was whether or not they thought it would be a good idea or interesting to have a design challenge based on the every framework that we have been talking about in the AI, the NCAI guidance about using how to responsibly use AI every time, and maybe making a classroom student version of that and having like a design challenge. So they talked about that and thought that that might be something that would be interesting to do. This was not available to me at the time, but I wanted to definitely put this in here to just show you this. But I'm going to skip through this right now because I did not talk about this with the class. So I'm just going to like put this here for a resource for you. But I want to go and show you the location for the rest of the AI literacy lessons from Common Sense Education. So there's a link here to the website directly. It's also in that Wakelet, but this is the first lesson that I did. And you can see that there's an entire series that you could do. And AI or Common Sense Education has designed them to be 15 minutes. And that would be to just say it, show the video, and wrap it up. But you can add more interactivity with students if you want to, or you can just keep it super simple. Okay. Any questions about that before I talk to you about AI for education? Okay. One of the things that I think about that particular class in terms of equity is that class teaching AI literacy in that way ensures that you reach all students, not just your students who might be in a computer science class or in a STEM class. You're reaching all students. And I think that is just an amazing way to make sure that, like you saw with Savannah and with Bo and those other students that we talked to at the AI Summit, is that AI is important for all students to know about, all people to know about, not just selected students here and there. So the next one that I want to tell you about really quickly is a unit from AI for Education. And this one is a screenshot of it, but I'm going to go directly to that shows you all 4 modules. They have 4 lessons, and it goes from lesson 1, where you interview a chatbot. And if you click on, supposedly this is linked. That first one was supposed to be linked, but it was not, obviously. So let me go back here, see if my first screen is linked. So let me go out to the actual website. So if you go to here,
Stacey, I dropped them in the chat.
Did you put it in the chat? Thank you.
Yep.
So if you go to that link in the chat, it will take you to this website where you can see all 4 lessons on the screen. And they've got 4 lessons, lesson 1, 2, 3, and 4. And it starts off with interview a chatbot. And then they have one where you learn the mind of machine, where you learn a little bit about machine learning and how AI works. It talks about, then lesson 3 is about hallucination detective and how and why AIs make mistakes. And then it ends with co-creating, having students create an AI policy. And what's really neat about this, and I just want to show you this video is from Michael Kingston and Amanda Bickerstaff. Amanda's the co-founder of, or the founder of AI for Education, and then Michael is the designer of the unit, the lesson plans in the originally. And what I really like about this video is that they talk about how they designed this unit to begin with and what they were thinking about when they put it together. And using backward planning, they talked about how they wanted students to end up with this co-created AI policy for their school or their district. And in order to design an AI policy, you have to understand how AI works. So, starting from that endpoint, they said, well, let's talk to a chatbot. Let's figure out what it's like to be using a chatbot. So that's where they started with lesson 1. And then to understand how a chatbot's working, you have to understand a little bit about machine learning. And then when you see how machine learning works, you realize that you need to understand why AIs make mistakes. So that's where the hallucination detective unit came in. So each one of those 3 lessons is informing the endpoint, which is an authentic product that every school and district ends up needing to have. So they're very interconnected. So I really love the way this unit has been put together. And each lesson is designed to take 90 minutes, and you are able to break that up into smaller segments if you want to spread it out into if your time frame is a little bit shorter. So I'm going to go over here and show you a little bit of. Can I move this out of the way? I can. Good. So in lesson 1 for interview a chatbot, the way the resources look when you take a look, when you go into the website. So if you were to click on that initial screen, it'll take you over to a page. They're really, really comprehensive, and they provide you with all of the resources, and you can kind of use them as is, or you can customize them however you want. But as you download them, they'll give you a student packet, the teacher packet, and then all of the either a PowerPoint or a Google slide deck. I have uploaded the Google slide decks to Canva and kind of customized them that way if you're a Canva person, and it works out really, really well. One of the ones that I used the first time that I tried out the first time was the celebrity heads activity, where after you interview the chatbot in lesson 2, sorry about that. They have you do a game where you interview a celebrity, where ChatGPT plays the role of the celebrity and you have to guess who it is. So they have a lot of interactivity with the AI, and you can either use an external AI like ChatGPT, or you can use I tried it using Magic School's Raina, and that works out just as well. So either way, if you're external or you're internal, either way it works. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to slide forward to is example 3, resources to practice prompting skills. So suppose you only have a little bit of time and you just want to get kids to get good at prompting, and you're in a regular ed classroom and you're thinking, in addition to prompting, I want kids to practice their attention to detail, their metacognitive skills. So this kind of has a lot of other added benefits besides just being a really good way to practice prompting. So there are 2 really good sites that you can use. Doesn't require a login. You don't have to use your Google sign-in or anything like that. So the first one is Say What You See. And if you click on, let's see, I'm on slide 48. If you click on this graphic, it'll take you over to Say What You See. And sometimes you have to reload this because it freezes and it sends you to a strange page. I noticed that in one school I was in the other day. But when you click Launch Experiment and then Start Level 1, you will first see like this little graphic here, and it'll give you a picture. Yesterday it was not giving me this picture, so it changes. And the challenge is to get what you write over here as close to what this picture is, and it'll give you a score. And to advance to level 2, you have to get at least 3 checks in your box to get to level 2. And I think you have to get above 50%. So, and it's just paying attention to detail and getting it to be as close as possible. So it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun unless you're bad at it and you get frustrated. And then the next one that is very similar, but you can only do one a day, so it's lower on this frustration scale, is Twin Picks. And so again, you click on Twin Picks. Yesterday was an alligator. So today we have adorable puppy, or a cosmic puppy. So Twin Picks changes every day. And I feel like it's kind of like GeoGuessr. So you get a different picture every day, and up here in this box, you have to describe the picture. The limitation is you only get 100 characters, and so you type this in. So you would say, I don't know, it's not really fluffy, but you describe it as closely as you can. I'm going to say fluffy, even though it's not fluffy. White puppy. Cosmic background and squares. Now this is going to be bad. And then you click create image. And so it's going to do it. And I'm just going to accept the fact that it's going to be terrible. Okay, so it's going to recreate your image. And what it'll do is give you a score. Oh my, I should have said happy. Okay. So it's sort of cosmic. It has some squares. And oh, I didn't do as badly as I thought I would. Um, but and then you can click on share and and it won't share it unless you actually click share again, but it will tell you why, how it gave you the score that it gave you, right? So what I like about this site is that in the background, once you click that, it'll give you information about why it gave you the score that it gave you. And then you would just close it. Okay. And that Twin Picks. And I've got something super random. And then this last one is going to be what I'm calling a bonus bite, and it is from Sketch Meta Demo Lab. And so the last thing I want to share with you is just this super cool thing that you can play with your students. It doesn't have anything really to do with AI literacy, but it's a fun site to play with where you can upload any drawing as long as it has arms and legs. And when you upload a photo to when you upload a photo, you can it'll give it little vectors, like a kind of like a marionette, and it'll let you animate it, and you can use your animations in stories in Canva and things like that. It's just a really fun site to play with. And I want to start, I always end my sessions with a call to action about how you can use AI with your students to learn and how you can use AI. How your students are going to be using AI to develop the skills that they need to be successful, especially in terms of AI literacy. And this list of daily questions from Dan Fitzpatrick and the AI Educator, I think is just a really kind of timely list. And we are, as we're thinking about AI literacy for students, I feel like we are navigating down this list to level 3 and 4, where we are here working with students and thinking about AI literacy for students. Levels 1 and 2 are all about teacher workflow and efficiency. And so when we're using tools where we're creating things more efficiently and getting things done more efficiently, when we are thinking about saving time in class, then some of that time we get back for ourselves, and then some of that time we get back and we can spend it with students and give that time to think about how we're rethinking our class time with students. And so I really feel like these things that we're doing with students are where it's at. So with all of that being said, here are some resources for you to kind of wrap it all up. Everything that I've talked about today are linked right here in the Wakelets for Education, and the AI literacy resources are in the North Carolina guidance on pages 17 and 18. So, and they'll be updated. It's a dynamic document, it's a living document, so it'll be updated all the time. So definitely bookmark it or put it somewhere where you can find it again. And I really thank you for coming to this session this morning, especially in July. I really, really appreciate your time. And if you have any questions, we've got a little bit more time. And if not, there is the feedback link. When you fill that out, it will also send you your certificate of attendance. And I'll be on the line for a few more minutes if you've got any questions.